Hey everybody, it's Rob here. Welcome to my tier list video for Season 4. This is going to be mainly focused on the endgame. And a short disclaimer before we start, this is going to have all the best builds in the game. And this is my best guess. We did not have any chance to play the absolute final patch. So we have to go with what was said in the patch notes, but on some cases it's been a bit vague. I will do my best to keep this tier list up to date. As the meta evolves, because we will see like how hard the pit is going to be and all these things. And this tier list does not strive to rank absolutely every build in the game, only the top options, but I sure have a lot of builds. The tier list is going to be linked in the description. It's also going to be having all the planner links right here on the right side in the sheet. You can also follow along the tier list here on d4builds.gg, where you have like links to all the stuff. So if you want to see like the top build here, the minion necros, you can just click on it and then you'll land on the planners and on notes and showcase. There will be extra information. There's also going to be a YouTube video for all of them. And yeah, things like that. So good stuff. Before we start, so the measurement that I used here is mainly for very high pit runs because and boss killing, because it's very hard to like rank the builds otherwise. Like nightmare dungeons, as you may know, and the open world are not really a big challenge anymore. So the main metric that we used, it's not the only metric, but it's the main metric, is the DPS of a build. Because in most builds, especially on the pit, the build would struggle at the boss kill. So you have to bring down, on the PTR it was 500 million life, the boss, and the Uber boss is going to have up to 10 billion life, and you know the pit boss might be buffed. So this all depends on your ability to dish out single target damage. If the pit is in fact easy and not buffed by a lot of health, some builds that are A tier, such as the Sorc builds, they might overtake the S tier builds. The Necromancer is the best build in the game, highest damage, but as you also Necro enjoyers might know, the Necromancer is not the fastest moving class. So Sorcerer, you know, has this insane teleport, and if the pit is not hard again, there's no way a Necromancer could keep up with, this is for example the Frosty Stride build here on Sorcs. If the pit remains easy, there's no way a Necromancer can keep up with the sheer speed that you have on, for example, a Sorcerer with teleports. So again, this tier list is basically made for when the pit is actually hard. So if the pit still remains relatively easy, aka it's not buffed by at least 10 times the health, the Sorcerer is probably gonna jump into S tier and maybe even some of the Barb builds and some other builds as well. Because yeah, the minion build, and let's start with this as the first build, is the strongest build in the game. So there's two different builds basically, mainly. It's the Golem Necro. You guys maybe have seen some clips. There's one here. The Golem Necro is actually able to hit for billions of damage. And this is not even the final form. Like it can hit, I've seen hits up to like 6-7 billion. And this was like unoptimized. And even because there's some rumors that they're going to change the amount of mastery ranks that you can have. Even if they're going to change this, it's still going to hit for billions of damage. And it's by far the best build in the game to kill the Uber bosses. It's dishing out billions of damage, best boss killer in the game. But yeah, it's a bit slow on movement speed. So if you want to play just a hard-hitting build, it's also good for leveling. Minion Necro is for you. Golem version is for the bosses, and the Skeleton Mages also is hitting for up to, like, I've seen 100 millions of damage per Skeleton Mage on the target dummies and stuff, and it's very good for running dungeons. And it's also going to be the leveling starter set for the next season, and that's going to make it insanely strong because you can just like blitz through the entire game. I think I have a clip here of the Minion Necromancer absolutely decimating the Capstone 3 dungeon here at... He's fighting the big boy. This was from Ponyhof, so he was level 54 and he was blasting just Skeleton Mage with a Golem as well. And he was absolutely destroying Elias, which is like a pretty hard boss because he's 70 and he's only level 54. And I was shocked by how fast he kills it. And this is completely without any tempering stuff. So you might have even like not seen it. Like he kills this hard boss that is 16 levels higher than him in just 16 seconds. So the Season 4 is definitely the season, guys, where the Necromancers rejoice. Minions, enjoyers, is going to be the season of the Necromancer. Minion is insanely powerful, and this is definitely going to be a build that I'm looking much forward to play. I plan on doing Necromancer boss killer, and then maybe even the Summoner Mage for the pits. Then we have next, also in S tier, is the Tornado Druid. This build is also able, it's not able to hit for billions, but it's also able to dish out hundreds of millions of damage per second. There's also one clip here of the Tornado, you might have seen this one, killing the hardest boss in the game, Ubergreg, in just about 5 seconds. So this uses a combination of double casting the Tornadoes and an uncapped Paragon node. So you have this new tempered FX here where a chance of Tornado to cast more projectiles. And you also get, to the tempering, you get a bunch of close and potentially distant damage. And this is basically scaling your Thunderstruck node, this one here, up to crazy amounts. I've seen like up to 3 times the damage on this Thunderstruck node. So that's the reason why this Tornado, it used to be a good build already in Season 3, and now it's like got buffed by like ×5 or something. And it's just catapulting into the S tier. Ubergreg in 5 seconds, pit 200 easy mode. It's really, really strong. Then we have the A tier. So here we start with the first Sorc builds. Again, if the pit remains easy, these Sorc builds might overtake into S tier. So we have the Frozen Orb Sorcerer here. This one is the new build with the Fractured Winterglass. Has really good single target damage, has a bunch of stagger. It got nerfed a bit in the final patch notes by the Frozen Orbit not triggering the Winterglass explosions anymore, and the lucky hit got a bit reduced. But it still remains one of the best builds. There's actually 4 of them, but one of the best builds for the Sorcerer because it still does insane damage and it moves very, very quickly. Then you have the Ball Lightning Sorc. This one is a classic. You might have seen like all the Ball Sorc clips. It's been the best build in Abattoir of Zir, and it got nerfed a bit, but it got nerfed quite a lot, but it's still a very strong build, especially if you're hitting a big hitbox boss. You can dish out insane amounts of damage, and it can kind of like take the damage with you, you know, because those balls, they orbit you and you just teleport around, and it's just like really strong build still. Then you have the Blizzard Sorcerer. This one also got buffed because the aspects came up. You know, all the generic damage aspects came up with the recent patch, and the Blizzard Sorc is one of them. The ice spikes dealing insane damage. The only condition here is that the target needs to have a decent hitbox and to be standing still, so you're gonna go a lot of stagger here. So if the target doesn't move, the DPS is well over 50 million per second as well. And just as a benchmark, if you're doing 50 million per second, you're gonna be killing the pit bosses in about 10, maybe 15 seconds, depending on if he's moving or not, and you need some time to build up the damage on blizzards. Like you actually need to cast those blizzards to stack them. Then next we have one of my favorite builds is the Frosty Stride Sorc. Now this is a crazy aspect that is surprisingly not nerfed, and it's allowing you to hit for, I think it's about 100,000 damage per hit here on the Frosty Stride Sorc. This was the video that I showed in the intro here. And yeah, it didn't get nerfed. The Hectic got halved, so that might affect things a little bit, especially with the Perma Flame Shield casts. So we are not exactly sure if the Perma Flame Shield is still in the game, but even with the Hectic nerf, I know it's still possible. It depends a bit on what they changed with the final tempering stuff. But this build, even if this stuff is nerfed, is still going to be one of the top contenders because it is just so strong. It's just not really a beginner-friendly build because you need to remain, and you can see in this video, you need to remain at not max life, and it's very hard to do on the Sorc and even on other classes. On the Sorc, it's the easiest out of the bunch, but still not easy because you need to have your Flame Shield and you need to have your Barrier. But if you have the build correctly set up, it can look like this. You're only using 2 skills because of your Hectic resets, and it absolutely demolishes everything. But this is a very high endgame build that is only recommended for experienced players, basically. Then we come to our big class, the Barbarian. And the Barbarian is coming in strong with 3 builds right here in A tier. We have the Dust Devil Barb, first of all. This is going to be the starter set for Barbs, and it's also going to be one of the best speed running sets in the game. And there is certainly a nerf to it. I made a separate video on this. So they reduced the amount of twisters, and they also reduced the size of those twisters. But this has mainly affected the double swing version, and there is a couple other versions here. For example, the Whirlwind version And there's also a leap version. I have the planners here. Like mainly, we are using the devilish aspect here to proc those Dust Devils, because this one has not been changed. It's still creating 3 Dust Devils on 100 Fury spent. And this is like the main aspect. And now we're using Ramadalis to scale it even higher because we can't stack all the size. But I'm going to make a full separate build guide on this because this is going to be my starter build and also a build I'm looking very much forward to play. Super strong. So this is the best speed version. Then we have the Bash Barb. The Bash Barb is insane. It deals a ton of damage and is a very solid build overall. You don't need any Uber Uniques. In fact, you don't even need any Uniques. There is one unique, obviously, that helps you. It's the Pain Gongler version. But it's not necessary. And the Bash Barb just is crushing. It's, I can show you here the video real quick. It's absolutely demolishing a lot of the content in the game as well. And it's hitting for pretty good damage numbers. You can see here me fighting 0 on the PTR. Again, there's going to be an updated build guide again on this. It's very strong. The only thing is there might be some changes coming with the tempering on the final patch. But I firmly believe this build is sitting very comfortable in A tier. And even has some potential to over-tune the Dust Devil Barb with the nerfs there. This is basically not big AoE. So if you want a build that is hard-hitting, but in a rather small AoE, the Bash Barb is for you. You also just need to left-click. Like, it's very simple to play. Then we have the Thorns Barb. This one is a unique playstyle. This is probably the most tankiest build in the game. I don't think any other build can take more hits than a Thorns Barb. They buffed the Razor Plate to actually have a damage multiplier now. So it's insane speed. And there's also some new aspects and tempering effects that buff the Thorns damage even further. And as you may have also seen, they have added a maximum life practically to everything. So you can reach up to 200, maybe even 300 million life. And your life is scaling with your Thorns. So the Thorns Barb is looking very, very promising. It's super cool to play. And yeah, a very unique playstyle. It can be even played in leveling. Because in leveling you have a new affix that is called life per hit. And actually every Thorns instance triggers this life on hit, making you essentially completely immortal during the leveling process. It's just not recommended so much if you plan to play a lot in a group. Because obviously for Thorns to trigger, the monsters need to attack you. But for like the highest pits, especially if it's very hard content, this is going to be a tank. It's going to be a machine, and it's going to deal out hundreds of millions of damage as well. Did I say million? Okay, 200,000 life, of course. Thanks, chat. Then next we have the Shadowblight Lazy Monster. This is basically the Necromancer with the Wither node. That is also going insane. It actually has a triple scaling here with Wither. It's this legendary node here. And as you may know, we are getting a lot of intelligence next patch. So it's basically scaling your shadow damage, and we're using Corpse Explosion with that. And you guys can see here at different int levels, like how crazy this becomes. So this Wither node gives you like a 12x multiplier at 2,700 intelligence. So it's very insane, scaling very high. It already used to be a very good build, and is even stronger now. Again, you can check the videos in the description. Like there's videos to all these builds here. Like there's here one speed farming the Pit 200. It's also very easy because most of your things just auto trigger basically. So it's like a very chill to play build that is a lot of fun, and you're just proccing corpses and corpse tendrils and shadow damage over time basically everywhere. And yeah, you're just like melting everything like that. It's a lot of fun, and certainly a build to look forward to. Then we have the Rapid Fire Rogue. This one also is based on the new unique Scoundrel's Kiss here that they introduced. And they're actually buffing this from the PTR, where you can now basically aim wherever your mouse is, so you don't have to play a melee rogue. So this is finally a viable ranged rogue build that is actually insanely strong, sitting here very solid in A tier. There are some cool and fast videos here. Again, I'm probably going to make a like top 5 or top 10 recommended builds with all the gameplay footage as well. I just want to really give you like the overview here of all the different power levels. So this might even, we'll see. I don't think it's going to be S tier, but it's going to be a very strong build. It has definitely potential here to jump ahead of A tier. So I know Rogue is not really the most popular class and not the strongest class right now. In fact, some class has to be the weakest, so this is my class ranking by power. So Rogue unfortunately comes in last, like some class has to be the last, but yeah, this build is still very strong, but you will need this one unique item here, the Scoundrel's Kiss, that you need to target farm for this build, but it's very fast. Then we have the Hurricane Druid. This one has been, if you guys remember my videos, it has been hitting for billions of damage. That bug has been fixed though. But the Hurricane Druid still has some crazy interaction where you can snapshot your crit chance and you can snapshot your overpower. So this build, I've seen it hit for 50 million per Hurricane tick. Again, with a snapshot at overpower cast. And it also gets a 40% damage buff as per the patch notes. So this can well deal over 100 million of damage every single second in AoE. So this is going to remain one of the strongest builds as well for Druid. The Tornado Druid is a bit stronger, but Hurricane is sure right out there with it. Then we're coming to B tier. Before we move to B tier, actually, I wanted to emphasize here that the DPS difference between A and S tier is still tremendous. Like, the minion builds, again, like with this billions of damage, and this Tornado Druid also has like about 400, 500 million damage in this Gregory kill that we have. So the DPS difference here is tremendous. So these S tier builds are gonna be flying high. And A tier build is also very strong. Now we come to B tier. So these builds are definitely quite a bit weaker, but still very fun to play and very cool builds. First here is a new build, is the Firebolt Sorcerer. It actually did up to 500 million DPS, but there was a bug associated with it where your projectiles would multi-split. So it kind of has been nerfed by quite a bit because this bug has been fixed basically. It still, I think, is going to do like very good single target, but it would have the potential to do like, you know, more DPS, so we could move it to A tier. But the problem with Firebolt is that it only hits like in a very small AoE. So I actually moved this down to the top of B tier, even though it has good single target, but you're really going to be struggling in AoE damage. So this multi-split bug has been fixed, and it's still going to be a strong build. Also going to have very good flame shield uptime. Hopefully we're not going to see more immortal Sorcs, but it's going to be pretty good in terms of viability as well. Then we have the Meteor Sorc. This one is just releasing a bunch of meteors. The size got decreased a little bit. You guys can see here, like this is just releasing gigantic meteors. So the size is not going to be quite as big. It's going to be like slightly, I think about like 25% smaller in this video, but it's still going to be a very cool, very fun to play build. Then we have the Ice Shard Sorc. This one also had insane AoE that now got nerfed a bit. The AoE is still going to be big because the baseline is insane. It's not going to quite look like this, but it's going to be something close to this, where it's going to hit like, let's say, half the screen. And then you're using the Ice Shards to deal very good damage, especially against the boss. Then we have the Hodabab. This one was the king, the strongest build in the game for a solid 2 seasons. Its throne has now been taken for the by the minion Golem Necromancer. So I'm expecting this minion Golem Necromancer to hit probably even above 10 billion. It really depends what they do with the masteries. But potentially it has way more DPS than the Hodabab used to have before the nerfs. Even that being said, the Hodabab got nerfed divided by 10. But it's still very strong. You guys can see here, this is me playing just a Pit 200. And there's a Duriel kill here. Like, it's still blasting pretty strong. And it's still a very solid build to just, you know, speed farm the game with. It's not gonna, like, you know, one-shot everything like it used to be. But I still like to play it a lot. And it still packs out some pretty decent punches here. Hitting for, like, up to 60, 70 million damage, I think, per hit. And easily clearing Pit 200 too. So you're gonna be good with your B tier Hoda build. Then we have the Deathblow Barb. And this one can potentially be the new best boss killer on the Barbarian, but it's not really like a constant DPS, you know, it's like more this like one-shot potential. You guys can see me here killing some Duriels. Like, it's definitely blasting and killing Duriel very quickly. I think we're hitting for, I think like 300 million or something, and as you guys know, like here, 400 million, and you know, Duriel only has 200 million health, so this can potentially hit, if it's optimized, up to 1 billion damage per hit. But this can only do it once in a while, so it's not really constant DPS, but still, if you are just caring about boss kills, this build, Deathblow, could be for you. Then we have the Charge Barb, also fan favorite. It's been nerfed quite a lot, same as Hoda, but still very strong. Still can do Pit 200, at least the pre-nerfed version. Well, we will see how strong the Pit will be, but very strong, very solid build. We have the Leapquake Barb. This one got some damage buffs as well and very strong multipliers. It's a ton of fun to play. You're gonna just leap around and have a lot of fun with it. You guys can see me here just like leaping around and then kicking stuff. Like this is the Sparta Leap Quake build. Ton of fun. It's also hitting. I mean, I missed my kick here, but you guys can see like even just the kick is just hitting for like 50 million damage. It's still a very solid build. Ton of fun to play, but not quite as strong, I think, as the other options. Then we have the Barrage Rogue. This is actually the Rogue starter set. It can clear Pit 200 very well as well, but it's not as strong as the Rapid Fire Rogue. Same for Rapid Fire Penshot. There is a potential that it can do like 1 billion hits like it used to be here. Like you see this like billion hit number here. It got nerfed a bit because the Beast File boots got hit, and we also got the Banished Lord Talisman nerf. But we got a bunch of like extra tempered affixes, so this might be still hitting for around 1 billion damage. And still a good boss kill if you want to kill some uber bosses with it. Bone Spear Necro, there is the big tendril sizes, and there's extra casts from minions now on one of the enchants for your pets. This one is also fan favorite build, super solid still. Same tier as Hoda Barb, I believe, so rocking pretty good. Then we have the Boulder Druid, and this one I'm not really so sure about because I didn't play, like it was bugged on the PTR, as you guys might remember, the Boulder Hurricane. And it has potential, I think, to even move into A tier. I think this one is potentially one of the best builds in B tier. I'm not really like exactly sure. I don't have a planner for this one, but Boulder Druid looking pretty good. But yeah, Hurricane and Tornado are certainly a bit stronger. We'll see. Let me know in the comments what you think about this one. Then we have the Lightning Storm Druid. Unfortunately, this build did not get any double casts, only duration increase. That's why it remains in B tier. It still has this crazy Thunderstroke node that we talked about, where you stack your close, you stack your distant, and you're actually getting a time 3 multiplier. But yeah, the problem is that the duration feels kind of useless on it. But still, very solid B tier. There's going to be a couple more builds here in B tier, like I didn't list them all, only like the most popular choices. Then we come to C tier here. I'm just going to go over it real quick. We have Fireball, Sorc. It's great in group with the enchant, but doesn't really have enough DPS to compete. Arclash also played a lot. It's decent overall. It also is nerfed a bit because of Hectic, and it wasn't like really the best build before, so it's like here in C tier. We have the Incinerate Stalk. This one is like surprisingly the starter set for Sorcerer. I would have wished that Sorc would get the new Frozen Orb as a starter set, but it didn't. It got Incinerate. And Incinerate, it can do Pit 200, or it could do Pit 200 on a PTR, but it's kind of meh in general. You have to stand still and channel, and it only does like medium damage at best. So not really the strongest build. Same goes for Pulverize. It's going to be amazing at the start. You know, like Pulverize is good because it's the starter set on Druids. And this is probably the leveling build I will recommend for Druids as well. But the biggest problem is that at some point, if the monsters become too hard, you're running out of overpower procs, and then it's not doing much damage anymore. The Landslide here got a cool new unique, a cool new ring, can also do Pit 200, but is probably not the greatest in terms of speed in comparison to other builds and to damage output. Then we have the Rend Barb. This one actually hurt me to put in C tier, because I think the Rend Barb is still pretty solid, but they got the AoE nerfed, and you know, I felt like Rend was finally in a good place. Like with this new size, you see this was on the PTR, like amazing size, but it got nerfed pretty heavily. So right now, with the small sizes, I just don't see it competing with the likes of Hoda Barbs and like, you know, Charge Barb or something. So I put it down here in C tier. It got a small Captain Crimson buff, but like we're not really using this one. Upheaval Barb was also amazing with the AoE, but also the AoE nerf is huge on this one because you had 4 weapons with AoE, and now you can have 1 weapon with AoE. So, and there's not really any good alternative to take, unfortunately, and the DPS just isn't there. We have the Grenade Rogue. This one is one of the new Rogue builds, but it comes in kind of weak. So it's like C tier basically, not really the strongest. Then we have the Twisting Blade Rogue. Actually, sad story here. This used to be one of the best rogue builds, but it has been nerfed quite a lot, and yeah, now it's down here in C tier. The Elemental Search, it did not only get nerfed, it got completely nuked. I think it was changed from like 23,000 to like just a couple thousand now, so yeah, it got nuked unfortunately. Like, this is not a thing anymore. We have the Wolf Companion Druid, so you know they buff the companions a lot. I mean, as you guys can see here with the Minion Necro, but the Wolf Companion I've seen it clear pit 200, but it was not really like the fastest build and nothing compared to the Minion Necros. I think Elon Musk was tweeting about this. He said it best, like, it feels like the wolves are hitting like some pack of hamsters. And I think that's still somewhat the case. I think they might be like, you know, hitting a bit more now, but it's still not enough. We'll see. Maybe there's going to be some creative druids out there that come up with a GG druid companion build. I would sure hope so, and I would love to, you know, bump this up to like B tier or even A tier. But for now, I think C tier is like the only way here to put it. And then there we have the F tier. I just listed these two because I wanted to talk about them. I mean, there's more builds in F tier that aren't just viable. We have the Pure Whirlwind Barb. So this is just sad. The spin to win has been nerfed by so much. It actually only does 16% base damage now. So if I have one wish for the next seasons, man, I would really, really want them or wish for them to buff the Pure Whirlwind version. It's just a fan favorite build, man. Spin to win has been so cool. It has been nerfed like 10 times since launch because this was actually the build that we made the first level 100 with on launch, and it was super cool, super fun. But yeah, it has been basically destroyed. It only does 16% base damage. It does not scale with your attack speed. It does not snapshot overpower. It doesn't like snapshot crit chance. It doesn't work with overpower at all. So I don't know why we have Hurricane in the game that snapshots crit and overpower, and we can't do the same for Whirlwind. Like, it just feels like kind of weird. Like, this build is just very weak. You can play a Whirlwind version that is okay as a support skill in combination with Hoda Barb, and you can play Dust Devil Whirlwind, but then, you know, your damage is coming from Dust Devils, and it's not like a Whirlwind damage build. But that one is pretty cool. And then we also have the Call of the Ancients Barb. They have this like new legendary in the game that makes the Ancients like, you know, attack with some stuff, but it's not really that strong. It's the Ariad's Bearing here, where you summon the Ancient and it does some damage, but it doesn't really do enough damage, is the problem. And it's pretty much dead on arrival, I feel, on Barb, because there's just no significant damage multipliers to your pets. But yeah, that has been the overall tier list. Again, the class ranking by power. I have Necromancer at numero uno, number one Necromancer. I think it's gonna be the season of the Necromancer. By far the best class. If you wanna have an easy leveling experience, just go with Minion Necromancer. You can play it all the way through. It's the starter set, no-brainer decision. We have the Druid that has two insanely strong builds, Tornado and also Hurricane. They're gonna rock a lot, and they're gonna be very, very strong too. But both of these classes are not gonna be like the fastest, you know, like these are gonna shine if the end game is really, really hard. The next two classes is Barbarian and Sorc, and I see them kind of on the same tier in terms of potential. Like they don't have quite the power level of Necromancer or Druid overall in their builds, but Sorcerer has the best speed in the game. It has the teleport skill. It can just teleport around, and the Minion Necro is still in level 1, and the Sorc already killed the boss in the speedrun. And then the Barb is very solid overall. It has good toughness. It has good speed. Not as good as a Sorc, but it also has good AoE damage. And it also has strong damage in terms of single target. Not as strong as the Necro again, but the Barb is a very good all-rounder class. And then I think in the last place here, we have the Rogue. I don't really think there is much good going for Rogue. The new build is kind of weak. The only thing that's very cool is the Rapid Fire. But yeah, I mean, if I make one suggestion, you play what you want, but I would not suggest starting Rogue. I think there's other classes to have a lot of fun of in this season, sadly. And I would really hope that, you know, they're going to look a bit more at the Rogue and for Season 5 or something, and give it like or something like the Necromancer treatment. And I think they already hinted towards this, that they want to, you know, bring up all the classes like somewhere close to the Barbarian power level. And I hope the Rogue is next in line. I think they need some help right there. I'm gonna make a leveling tier list separate to this video, but I also have like a class ranking here by leveling speed. I think Necro and Sorc are gonna be absolutely the fastest in terms of leveling. They have insane builds. Necro has minions, Necro has Blood Surge. We have Sorc that still has Firewall, it still has the teleport things and everything. Very fast, like these two are like rank 1 in my opinion. Then Rogue is on number 2 in terms of leveling speeds and like good overall. And then we have Barb and Druid around last place for the pure leveling experience, because these classes historically have been not so great in the early game. But I'm not so sure how much it matters this season, because we're mainly going to be leveling in Helltides, and you want to be playing in a party. Like if you have some friends, or you just look in the community, even if you don't have friends, there's going to be many people just playing in the Helltide. So just go out there, go in the Helltide, keep an open mind. There's going to be many people with you. Slaying demons together with your friends is a lot more fun, and then it doesn't really matter that Barb and Druid is like, you know, not the fastest the first 50 levels. It's gonna rock the end game, as you see here, and you can just benefit from each other. Like you can provide nice buffs. You have the debilitating roar, you have the war cry for your party in the Helltide. It's gonna be much appreciated for the Sorcs and the Necros as well, and they help you a bit early on with DPS output. And I think it's gonna be a cool leveling experience. I'm gonna make multiple more build guides on all of these, because you have not seen all the gameplay here. I'm gonna make a top 10 build guide video with all the gameplay, and I'm gonna show you like how we level and how the Helltide leveling is done. It's all in this sheet here again that I'm gonna link in the description. I just need to update this a little bit. And then you can also follow along the tier list here directly with all the build guides, and you can just, you know, click on any build here that you like to see here, like the Frosty Stride Sorc. You can just click on it, you get to the build, and then you can also click on notes, and you can also click on showcase. And there is going to be a video right here where this one is from Mikuna, for example, like where he's just blitzing through the hardest pits. This was on the PTR, and some things might change, guys. Just keep that in mind. But I really hope you find this video useful and it helps you choose the class that you want to start with. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it, my friends. Season 4 is gonna be awesome. I hope you enjoy. GG. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.